we are back for another casual conversation with the classic. Today, guys, I got a very special guest with me from WrestleQuest, which is launching on August 8th, guys. WrestleQuest is one of the newest RPG wrestling games. It's going to touch all your guys' nostalgia. I'm here with none other than the legendary Double J, Jeff Jarrett, and one of the creators of WrestleQuest, Zack Manko. What's going on, guys?
Justin, thanks for having us on. I cannot wait. I've been around the wrestling game, as you know, a long time, and a lot of big events, whether it's a big pay-per-view event, big TV event. I won't get into Wembley at the end of the month, setting truly history. We're going to make history a little earlier in the month as well, me and my tag partner here, Zach. But no, kidding aside, Justin, we're here to talk about WrestleQuest. The day is Tuesday, August 8th, and that's when everything lifts off. And I'm telling you, I'm as excited as I've ever been about really anything in wrestling. Yes, this isn't a world title match or a big pay-per-view, but it's on par with that. The reason I say that is this game is about as authentic to the world of professional wrestling as you can imagine. So Zach is the creative driving director. To kind of put it in wrestling jargon, he's the booker, he's the writer, he's the matchmaker. He is the creative driving force in WrestleQuest. And when I tell you he is on another level when we talk creative minds and talent in the wrestling industry, Zach's there. So we both appreciate you having us on today.
You're too kind.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. Zach, can you give us a little bit of an insight of the game? It's been talked about being like a love note to professional wrestling. It's been talking about bringing lapsed wrestling fans back in that maybe started watching for a bit because some of the biggest heroes are in the game. And also, it's a different style of a wrestling game. It's not your typical, exhibition wrestling game where it's like pick two wrestlers and wrestle each other. It's like an adventure, which is a whole different twist on a wrestling game. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to do a wrestling game for a long time. A lot of us in the studio are lifelong wrestling fans, and also wanted to do a JRPG. We have a immense reverence for this genre, right? And we started to realize how much crossover there really is between RPGs and pro wrestling. They're both about story and narrative, larger than life characters, and this sort of spectacular combat. So once we realized there was this crossover, we started digging deeper and realized that we can take a lot of those classic RPG elements and then WrestleFi them to make them new and exciting, engaging for modern audiences and maybe people that don't know much about RPGs. So from the ground up, it was really all about appealing to both sides of the aisle. Whether you're an RPG gamer or a wrestling fan, WrestleQuest has something for you. It's a completely new environment theme that you haven't seen in an RPG before. And if you're a wrestling fan, it explores what you love in a way that you haven't seen before in a video game.
Who could we expect to see in the game? What are some of the familiar characters from the wrestling world that wrestling fans can expect to see in this game?
Yeah, so again, being this love letter to wrestling, we take some of our heroes, some of the great legends from the 80s and 90s wrestling, and literally put them on a pedestal. They appear as these larger-than-life Statue of Liberty-esque statues where, there's entire towns and communities dedicated to them. Guys like Macho Man Randy Savage, Sergeant Slaughter, Jeff Jarrett, Jake the Snake, Andre the Giant, the Road Warriors, Rocky Johnson, Coco Beware. The list goes on. There's about 30 licensed wrestlers in the game.
Is there an ability to beat this game? Is there like an endpoint to it?
So the game is very large. We often talk about how maybe it was kind of dangerous to make this from like a fan first love letter perspective because we just kept adding and adding content. There's 40 hours of core story alone. That doesn't even touch like all the side quests with all the wrestlers. So there's a lot to do. It'll keep you coming back to the ring for quite a while. And there's a few end game things too. Once you beat the final ultimate heel villain, there's still a few things for you to do to get you to come back.
That's awesome. Jeff, you were going to say something. Sorry, I cut you off.
Just because I think in this format, I've been taught a long time ago, know your audience, speak to your audience. Both you guys were going RPG. Some people may or may not know role-playing game, right? I just want to be to break it right down. So as a wrestling fan, what does every fan do? Whether they come to the show to either cheer the baby faces or cheer the heels, everybody kind of lives vicariously like That's my guy. That's my tag team. Or I really like this person, or I really hate this person. That's one of the things. And there's a lot of things about this game that are so authentic to professional wrestling. It's the storytelling, it's the heels, it's the baby faces, it's the quest, it's the triumphs, it's listening. There's a thing in the game called a hype meter, and that's all about the electricity and the energy when a challenge is going on, or we'll call it a match is going on. You have to listen to the people in this game. That's why there's so many little touch points in WrestleQuest that is so authentic to professional wrestling that I know part of your audience may not be gamers, but may go, I can relate to that. That's one of the things that I just absolutely love about WrestleQuest.
What was one of the main things that made you really want to get involved with this, Jeff? Like, what made you feel like this was a thing that you're like, oh, because it's kind of out of your realm. It's video games, right? So, like, what caught your attention? You're like, oh, this is cool. I want to be part of this.
Well, in the 90s, it was the first time I was in a game. And look, you touched on it earlier, simulation games. And that kind of leans into true sport, an NBA game or a soccer game or a football game. That's where, you're basically simulating a sport. Well, as me and you both know, Justin, wrestling is much more than simulating a sport. It's characters, it's storyline, it's drama, it's the ups and downs. But the very first conversation that I had with Mega Cat and the team is that, it jumped off the page when I said, hey, dude, Zach, you know your stuff. And when you're talking to a guy, I'm third generation, when I know somebody is more than a video game dude who's just going to kind of casually make a wrestling game. No, the thing that brings, I'll call it Jeff Jarrett's world and Mega Cat Studios, the developers of the game, and Zach is, at the end of the day, we're all just wrestling fans. That really, really attracted me to, they're based in Pittsburgh, but guys that, they've got a team that's across the country. So there's folks down in Miami that can relate to Florida wrestling back in the day. There's guys out in the West Coast, old Venom, look, there's so many different names or people that are part of the team that know name wrestlers. But anyway, the authenticity of the team of truly wrestling fans. So we're wrestling fans. We're going to bring the gaming world and the wrestling world together. And again, Justin, what really connects us as wrestling fans? It's that emotional connection. We really love our guy or we really hate our guy. It's all about the emotional connection. And we are emotionally driven characters, if you will, or humans. The game drives that. It drives emotional engagement on the quest throughout. And look, you can tell that I'm excited, but I could talk forever about this just because it really is two worlds coming together, and 1 + 1 makes a lot more than two.
And it's always been cool, like as a wrestling fan, to see like your favorite characters in worlds that are unique to wrestling. Like, if they're on a certain TV show or they're in something else, we always want to see these characters in regular life and how they'd be like that. And I think this game's putting them in a whole different world instead of just in the ring and the simple simulation of a wrestling game. And I think that's super cool. Another quick question I had is, what platforms will people be able to play this game on?
It's coming out for PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Switch, and Netflix Mobile.
Oh, that's sweet. So basically anyone can play it if you have any of those things.
Yeah.
I thought it was limited to anything, which is awesome.
Justin, to dumb it down to an old wrestler, I always say, if you play video games, you can play WrestleQuest on all platforms.
100%. So how did you guys come up with the main character?
Muchacho Man, yeah. So Randy Savage is definitely like the pillar of the game. And he inspires this protagonist, Randy Santos, to, he starts out like a lot of us, glued to the TV screen, watching his idols wrestle, and he wants to be like them. So, he goes from backyard wrestling with his friends to training in a local training gym, working his way up. And his whole shtick is that he's exists in constant kayfabe. It's this idea of like having this love for wrestling, and it's still real to you no matter what. It's bigger than life. And so his sort of stories about how he maintains that innocent, pure relationship with it as he moves up the ranks and gets into the nitty gritty and the behind the scenes stuff.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to playing this game, guys. It sounds like it's a ton of fun. I'm curious, Jeff, since we brought him up and since he's such a main character of the game, do you have any interesting Macho Man stories you could share with us?
Well, I mean, I've got 1,000. I mean, I got more than that. Randy, before he went to the WWF in 84, 85, he was working for my father. prior to working for my father, he worked in those days. It was called opposition. There was a big territory war and a lot of bad blood, and we're talking late 70s, early 80s. It was an ugly scene, but Randy is a personal, close friend of the family. My grandmother thought the world of him when he actually, when everybody laid down their guns, not just figuratively speaking, but literally speaking, and we started doing business together. So Randy, was a huge, I can't put in describe the words, my father and his relationship, because they had a kinship of being not just fellow promoters, but they just kind of viewed the business the same way. And then Randy's obviously incredible success through the years, but his work ethic is something that always made Randy different from everybody else, no matter what. He used to give me advice in, 94, 95 when I worked with him, and then at WCW. But, I love to watch Randy, some of my favorite matches ever, him against Jerry Lawler. That goes back to the territory days. But, the Macho Man Randy Savage was one of those things that when the Mega Cat team said, hey, Randy Savage is in the game, I said, now hold on. Are you trying to tell me you Randy Macho Man Randy? Yep, he's in, and Andre the Giant. So I could tell you a lot of stories, but Randy's work ethic set him apart from any talent that ever been around.
Knowing him personally, how excited do you think you would have been about this game and being involved with it if he was still with us?
So dig this. The thing that I say to, as a wrestling fan, Justin, I'm sure you can relate to this, that, maybe a casual or a lapsed, or maybe somebody who's never watched wrestling. Justin, I'm sure you've gotten this. We all have, like, you don't really watch that. You don't really still watch that. You're a grown man. So that's something that we've all dealt with as wrestling fans. Randy would be a huge stickler for the authenticity of the entire game. Randy would have blown Zach's phone up until 3 a.m. and said, hey, bro. I mean, he really would. He would have want to known, the exact verbiage and how things are going. He's a real stickler for authenticity. That was his work ethic. That was his mindset, handed down from his father. So that's one of the things that, whether it's Sergeant Slaughter or Jake the Snake, I just did San Diego Comic-Con. We all kind of talked in the back. It's one of those things that Zach and his team, they just nailed it. It's something that is truly a love letter to professional wrestling, and it just resonates and permeates through every tentacle that you get down into to all the things. And look, it's already won 20 awards. I kind of say that in our world, belts and championship exist. We're walking out next Tuesday with 20 gameplay awards already under our belt before the game comes out. So high cotton, my man. High cotton, Justin.
That's awesome. And I'm the biggest Macho Man fan, so I always love hearing these stories and hearing that side of him, because we don't get to hear a lot about it these days. But another big thing, does Jeff Jarrett have his guitar in the game? Will we see Jeff Jarrett swing a guitar in the game? Is that a thing that's possible?
I'll let Zach, but Justin, obviously not seen the game's promo spot we did, right? Have you seen the promo spot?
No. I need to check it out.
Yeah, Jeff swings a guitar in the game and in real life. I can attest to that.
That's awesome. No, I'll definitely check it out. I'll post it too. I'll make sure everyone gets to look at this game, guys. WrestleQuest dropping August 8th, this upcoming Tuesday, on all platforms. It's a wrestling game with a twist. It's something different. It's something new. It's something fresh. If you guys are getting kind of tired of the regular old wrestling game, this is going to put wrestling in a whole new atmosphere and environment. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And if you're a fan of RPG games, the role-play games, if you're like controlling the character head on, this is a game for you. You get to interact with all your favorite wrestlers. And I think it's going to be something that's going to change the idea of what you can do with professional wrestling in terms of entertainment, in terms of video games and movies and whatnot, I think in a different way.
Well said, Justin. Well said,
Thank you.
Man.
I tried. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys coming on here. It's a pleasure. I didn't want to take too much of you guys' time. I know you guys are running around. I'd love to have you back in the show sometime, Jeff, if you ever get the chance. I'd love to ask you. And thank you for joining us, Zach.
Thanks for having us.
One of the masterminds behind the game on here with us is always a pleasure, because
happy to be here.
That little inside scoop about it. And
I'm just going to give you 2 of many, many Easter eggs in the game.
Okay.
Did you know Conrad Thompson's in the game?
I've heard.
Did you hear Dave Meltzer in the game?
That I did not hear. That is very interesting.
I'll just leave you with that, and many, many, many more. And when I tell you it's authentic to the vibe of today's professional wrestling, you just wait.
I think it's a game for the fans. When you say people like Conrad are in there, he's the man of the fans. He's given us so much through his podcast, being the Podfather and all of his podcasts. I mean, the whole Ad-Free Shows family. Give it to Dave Meltzer. He's been doing this since the 70s. He's been connected to the wrestling fan. So this makes it sound like it's more inclined to be a game for the wrestling fan. Because the stuff that wrestling fans do online, whether it's listening to podcasts or trying to get the inside scoop, it's going to be integrated in this game if you say names like Dave Meltzer and Conrad Thompson. So
that's right. That's right. All happening drops Tuesday, August 8th. Be there.
Thank you very much. See you all next time. Keep doing the thing. Ooh, yeah.
Nice.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.